In this third of three Thanksgiving matchup, this is the primetime showdown between two dominating NFC West teams. Whose year is it? Will the 49ers continue dismantling their opponents with the 1-2 punch, or will the Seahawks bring the 49ers back down to earth?
Join us as we break down my personal favorite matchup of the holiday, help give you some inside analysis from a longtime 49er fan and myself, and let David and I fill you in with all the important stats that you need to know so you can focus on making the best picks for your holiday lineup.
Welcome to DFS Insights. I'm David Geistlinger, and I'm joined by my cousin, David Grant Jr. The teams up on the block are the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks.
So if you want absolutely free winning lineups, make sure to stay tuned till the end of the stream where I provide you with my hand-picked lineup and my cousin David uses his personal optimizer to put some extra holiday money into your pockets.
And with that, let's go ahead and I'll send it over to you to start breaking down this matchup.
Yeah, I'm. You haven't been able to tell by the big smile on my face. I am extremely excited for this matchup. Huge, arguably our biggest division rival. Over the last 20 years, and just real quickly before we touch on the matchup coming up. Going back to last season, the Niners did beat them both times. We played them once in September. It was only week 3, but we did beat them 27-7. And this is when we had Jimmy G as our quarterback. We didn't have Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle missed that game and was hurt. And then we played them again in December. And we beat them 21-13, and that was with Brock Purdy, that was with Christian McCaffrey, that was with a healthy George Kittle. So, it just doesn't seem to matter. Our squad is always locked in on this matchup, and I'm just definitely excited to see what shakes out this time around. The only thing that's making it a little lackluster, I guess, would be the injuries that are still lingering here for Seattle. Geno Smith with the elbow, DK Metcalf seems to be trending in the wrong direction. And then, their RB1 with Walker the third with the oblique. These are all major things we gotta be update, keep checking the updates up until a lock. Thankfully it is the later game, and I guess really I see this game where the Niners are just going to give the ball to Christian McCaffrey, throw the ball to Christian McCaffrey, and he's just going to score touchdowns. And I just don't see Seattle being able to do much about it. How do you kind of see this game playing out?
Yeah, no, I'm actually interested, obviously, in watching this, being here on the West Coast, and seeing, this rivalry throughout the years. And I believe it was 3-4 years ago, Seattle, did get the best of the 49ers. But recently, it looks like the Seattle's, kind of trending down as the 49ers have been trending up, making, all the right moves, adding Chase Young to their defensive, the opposite of Bosa and things like that. But we'll get to those player analysis. But as far as just the general matchup, 49ers arguably could be undefeated if they were healthy. Those 3 games, Purdy didn't look great, but Debo was out, Trent Williams was a huge, and there was one more.
We've had a couple.
Yeah, I forgot there was a third one that it was big, but
Greenlaw. I think it was Greenlaw. We've had a couple defensive guys too.
Yeah, but I was curious to see how Purdy would do after his first loss, and he lost 2 more in a row, but it seems, they shook it off in the bye and came back. In the last 2 games, I think they've outscored 61-17 their opponents. So, they're looking to make the run. I think this is the time, just by the sheer, players on their team. They're probably 17 times over salary cap, just if you base it on performance-wise anyways. But, they're definitely the heavy favorites, sitting at the 7-point advantage there. I'm just reading down these stats here. They are run happy, and why wouldn't you when you have CMC, running the ball? I would probably be giving it to him there, and then Debo also gets into the run game, as well. So I was more surprised to see the passer rating sitting at 75. I actually had to triple check that stat, and obviously this factors in every game up till now. So the 10 games they played, and Purdy did have a pretty atrocious 3 games there, which I think dropped down this passer rating quite a bit. But as you can clearly see, they're mid to upper 80s in rushing, overall offensive, and the 90s in the rest. So and Seattle's just your mediocre, C grades. So especially now with arguably their best weapon in Kenneth Walker. He's been a beast of a running back, and if he's not good to go, we'll break down the players here. But as far as a matchup wise, I'm looking forward to it. It should be, I'm hoping it's more of a close matchup, but San Francisco seems to be running on all cylinders here. So we'll see if obviously they can continue. Pete Carroll always seems to have something going on over there. So
I agree. And just another quick thing, arguably, our 3 losses, the first one was against Cleveland, and Brock Purdy made the drive that he needed to make, and our rookie field goal kicker just happened to, come up short. So, that's one, really, that wasn't, you could argue, wasn't Brock Purdy's fault. He did have only 1 touchdown, and he had an interception and a fumble. So, and went 12 of 27 for only 125 yards. But in the fourth quarter, when he needed to make that drive, he did, and we, just couldn't convert. And then, arguably, at Minnesota, he got concussed. So you get concussed in the first quarter, and then he ends up throwing 2 interceptions. Well, I saw the replay. He got blasted. So, and hey, Cincinnati, I don't have an excuse really for that one. They came to play. That was their best game of the season. And, again, Purdy did have 2 interceptions and a fumble. But like you mentioned, we had the bye. And since then, he's got 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, averaging over 300 yards a game. And, I get excited, and I just, all the Brock Purdy doubters that are out there, it's just hilarious. People think that you can just plug and play someone into Kyle Shanahan's system because they're trying to say Jimmy G went to the Raiders and fell apart. No, the dude's been injured. He's just a mediocre quarterback, and that is what it is. If Purdy was drafted in the first round, he'd have expectations of doing what he's doing, but because he's Mr. Irrelevant, everyone's just waiting for him to fail, and they're just going to have to continue to wait because we're winning the Super Bowl this year. Sorry, I'm excited.
I would say, dang, it seemed to me at least a lot of excuses for those 3 losses, but let's head over here, to the player analysis, and we'll continue on with the quarterback on Purdy, which you were going over his stats there. So I'll let you go ahead and, being the Niner fan, start it off breaking down Brock Purdy.
Yeah. So I went ahead and covered how he played in the losses. Before we went on the 3-game losing streak, he had 4, 5, 6, 7. He had 9 touchdowns and no interceptions. He did have, 2 fumbles in the first game and 1 fumble in the second game. But nonetheless, our defense did show up and show out. We were holding teams. We hold Pittsburgh to 19 points. I'm sorry, that was his attempts. We held Pittsburgh to 7 points. We held the Rams to 23. The Giants game doesn't count. But again, when Purdy is playing winning football, I mean, he passes the eye test. I mean, when it comes down to it, I watch him make his reads are great, his progressions are amazing, and I'll be having a lot of exposure to him in my lineups for this matchup. And Geno Smith, I feel bad for the guy. He's finally he played pretty good last year and was kind of continuing that this year, and now he hurt his elbow last game. I mean, that's huge. If he isn't in and it ends up being Drew Lock, I'm sure we'll see the point spread probably move, another 3 points or so. But I will not have exposure to Geno Smith, whether he's in or not, because of the injury and because of the Niners defense. What are your thoughts on the quarterback?
Yeah. Well, excuse me. Yeah, obviously out of the 2 quarterbacks, I believe Brock Purdy is clearly the better of the 2. I mean, just based on at least the last 2 games, like I said, scoring 61 points. And that's, basically 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions the last 2 games. So he doesn't seem like he throws all that much because they are, a run-heavy team. But when he does throw, they're, on target, on point, and he has the weapons there to back him up. So it just seems, everybody's saying, like you said, maybe waiting for him to fail, but he seems to be making the right plays when they need to be made. So maybe he had a lapse for 3 games. Maybe he wanted to take a vacation. Whatever it may be.
Has Patrick Mahomes had a bad game? Has Tom Brady had a bad game?
Well, hey, let's let him get a little bit further down before comparing him to those 2.
Playoff wins. Everyone always then wants to go, oh, well, how'd he do in the playoffs? Well, he smashed, we beat the Cowboys in the first round last year.
Yeah, but Cowboys. Geno Smith, he did come out of the game, and Drew Lock did finish that game against the Rams. So hopefully, just to make the matchup obviously better, I want him to be playing, so I'll keep an eye on that injury. But elbow injury, quarterback, 49ers defense, Geno's probably going to take a few sacks, and few is probably an understatement there. So at any time he could be pulled for Drew Lock if he re-aggravates that elbow, especially if it's his throwing elbow. So just basically keep your eye on the injury report. But yeah, definitely Brock Purdy will be in more lineups than Geno Smith, at least for me. And then probably now moving over to probably the best of the players, sections here, the running backs. I'll go ahead and let you start it off with probably the best player in the NFL as of now.
Yep, I agree. For anyone that can't fully see, but yep, I got number 2-3 all day. And yes, I'm aware he was number 24 before the Carolina Panthers just gifted us the best running back in the NFL. I'm still ecstatic and shocked and thankful, and every time I see a Panther fan, I just shake their hand and say thank you so much. This dude, unfortunately, the MVP, it seems to always be a quarterback. If it goes to a non-quarterback, it's hands down Christian McCaffrey. He has touchdown. He had a touchdown in 16. He tied the record, 16 games in a row. It was literally, I believe, okay, so the game before last at Jacksonville is when that streak stopped, but he bounced back against Tampa Bay with the receiving touchdown. He went 5 for 5. for 25 yards and a touchdown, 21 rushing attempts on 78 yards. I mean, it's if it's even possible to be overexposed to a Christian McCaffrey at 17K, I will be. He's a must play, and on this slate, I don't, if knowing you need to have the top fantasy scoring person, it's going to be him. If not, he'll be a close second. I promise you. As far as the running backs for Seattle, it's going to be, I guess, a wait and see approach, unfortunately. Kenneth Walker's a beast, and with him being injured, that's a big blow to Seattle. I would like to note that last year when we played them, we did hold them to it was a total of 70 rushing yards. So it will be a major blow if Kenneth Walker, Seattle's running back, does not play. He does seem to be a major, probably arguably their top offensive weapon. And so him playing hurt or not playing at all will, be just a huge blow. As far as, dating back to last season, the 49ers held Seattle to 36 rushing yards in the first game, and we held them to 70 rushing yards in the second game. And the 49ers had 189 rushing yards themselves in the first game and 170 rushing yards in the second game. So, regardless of whether Kenneth Walker plays or not, our rushing defense is up there. I mean, we're a top 5 defense overall. What are your thoughts on the running backs?
Yeah, the running backs, obviously Christian McCaffrey, don't have to reiterate, all the accolades for him. He's both highly in the run game, highly in the passing game. He's averaging, almost probably I can say 1.5 touchdowns a game. So if he's not the MVP in this matchup, I want to know who is, because they're going to be, scoring some points, because they utilize, I'm surprised, with Christian McCaffrey's, health and everything, and, when at least he was on the Panthers, for them to use him and him to be able to maintain has just been crazy. And I mean, I'm fully utilizing him. I have him in a few of my, year-long fantasy leagues, so I'm all for it. So yeah, I clearly see him, being the top here. And Kenneth Walker, I mean, not going to say too much. He is trending in the wrong direction. I don't see him playing, especially if he is as hurt as he is. Why would you go against the 49ers defense and potentially basically end this season when you're really going to be playing the 49ers in 2 weeks anyways again? So get healthy, that's what my recommendation, but I'm not a doctor. But so if obviously Kenneth Walker doesn't go, Charbonnet will be, the primary back. He's been doing pretty decent coming into that role. He looks like he obviously was the main last matchup, getting the 15 carries. He also is in, the running game. So, a similar role as McCaffrey. He's just obviously not probably at that, elite player level, at least yet, for himself. I believe he is a rookie, so he does have, some years to, to gain that experience. So, his option will, I think, be based also on if Geno Smith will play. So if Geno Smith ends up playing, obviously Seattle will probably be, maybe a balanced attack between passing and rushing. But whereas Drew Lock is the go, I can see Charbonnet being that check down back more often. So he's going to be getting those, half points every time he catches those check downs, and being more utilized if they go with the Drew Lock quarterback. So that's basically it for the running backs. And now jumping over here to the wide receivers, I get started off with I guess not too much to say about Brandon Ayuk. He's a beast. I mean, he clearly seems to be the number one receiver, and he's living up to that in San Francisco. I believe him and Purdy connected last game for the longest catch of not only Purdy's career, a short career, but I believe also Ayuk's and of the season. I think it was like a 5-yard touchdown pass there. So he has a little streak going here, averaging with the one touchdown. And it's hard because 49ers have Christian McCaffrey at running, so they do score quite a bit of points, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. So, but Ayuk is a viable player. He's going to get targets. He is a really good wide receiver, so he will be open to make those catches. And it seems like most of his catches are pretty acrobatic. So, Deebo Samuel is the same way. But he is also utilized in the run game as well, so that would be interesting. If he is a lot cheaper too, sitting at 12.5, where Ayuk is at 14.5. So just dropping down, if you think maybe Ayuk's going to get the better of the defenders from Seattle, going with Deebo Samuel, that's not I won't even say that's a downgrade. So those would, to me, be the only two wide receivers I'm interested really in San Francisco. I mean, if I had to pick, Jawan Jennings obviously would be their wide receiver 3, but I haven't seen him in too much. He's, I believe, against Minnesota, Deebo was out, so he definitely saw more targets there, but with everybody healthy, he's really not even an option. As far as Seattle, obviously you have Metcalf. He says he has a toe, but I think he's, he might be, slightly injured and maybe just taking some vet days off. I think he'll play. I'm not too concerned about this injury. Being, he's a monster. He's, probably 6'5", 6'6", and, huge. So he is a big target, and with 49ers secondary taking that hit with Hufanga going out for the season, that leaves them more vulnerable now, with Metcalf being a large target. And if Drew Lock is the primary one, he might lean on that wide receiver one. They typically, peg that best receiver and go straight for him and like hard target them, whether they're open or closed. Tyler Lockett, he just seems to be like in everything, making these crazy 50, 60-yard catches downfield. And so definitely he does get quite a bit of target share, so he is a little bit slightly less price-wise than DK Metcalf. So I'll probably be throwing, dabbling definitely with both of them because, like I said, I see 49ers weaker at the coverage than I do their run defense. Then dropping down for the wide receiver 3, the rookie Jackson Smith. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the second part. He is a viable option, but just keep in mind with Metcalf and Lockett, I mean, he'll get his targets too, but I think they're going to feed the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in this. How do you see it in the wide receiver perspective of this matchup?
Yeah. I mean, basically verbatim the way you see it. I mean, Ayuk's going to get his targets. He's really progressed each year. So, I looked back and saw he had 4 targets last year in the first game and 8 targets in the other one. He was held under 100 yards and didn't have a touchdown, but this to me is a different Ayuk. I think he's playing his best football of his career. So, you'd be a fool not to have him mixed into a couple of your lineups. And then I'll have a little bit of Deebo. Like you said, there's just a lot of mouths to feed on the 49ers. So you really got to kind of mix and match, and I would recommend, making a couple of lineups. If you are only making one lineup, then personally we'll get to the, what I think the one lineup should be in our next segment. But And as far as the receivers for Seattle, like you mentioned, I'll probably be trying to get to a lot of Tyler Lockett. To be honest, I'll probably have a lot of 49ers and one Seattle, depending on some of this news that's coming out. Um, each game, the last two games, Seattle's been playing from behind from Jump Street, and that's with Jimmy G or Purdy. I see that same game script happening. So, um, yeah, I'll have some Tyler Lockett. If Metcalf is in, I'd be a fool not to at least sprinkle him in, because I am going to be doing about 20 lineups for this single game. So I'll be sprinkling him in as well. And I don't think I'll be going to any wide receiver, 3s or 4s, unless they get bumped up from someone being out. So I think with that, we could, kind of jump over to the tight end, which I almost kind of went into as receivers. Arguably, George Kittle is the best tight end in football. I mean, he's at least in the discussion for it. It's because of him they have National Tight Ends Day. Just if you were wondering, that was created, I believe, 3 years ago, because George Kittle in an interview said, hey, why don't tight ends have a national day or something? It was like a joke, and now there's a National Tight Ends Day. So that's how good George Kittle is. In the last two games, I know I keep referring to history, but if you want to predict the future, you can just look into the past. And the first game was without Kittle, but the other tight end that we had playing scored the touchdown, our backup tight end. And then when Kittle did play in the second game, him and Brock Purdy linked up for 2 touchdowns. He went, I believe, 5 for 5 at 93 yards. So I will be having, at 11K, I'll be overexposed to Kittle. As you can see, even the last 3 current games, he's been heating up. He's got a touchdown, and he's averaging over 100 yards over the last 3 games, averaging about 9 targets. I mean, he's on fire right now. So I'll have a lot of exposure to him. And as far as Seattle goes, it's looking like their tight end 1 is, I believe it is Noah Font, unless it's Disley.
Yeah, Noah Font.
So I know his numbers don't look too amazing. He is only 7,500. I think the way this game shakes out, especially if Drew Lock does play, like you mentioned, how there'll be more checkdowns to a running back. Backup quarterbacks also seem to have a better connection with tight ends. They do the shorter passing plays, just the post, stuff like that. So I could see Font getting some extra targets, specifically if Drew Lock is the quarterback. What are your thoughts on the tight end situation?
Yeah, obviously out of the 2 tight ends you mentioned, Kittle by far is the better of the tight ends. The only thing I don't like is Kittle's salary at 11K, because I remember he used to be about 9K.
Yeah.
So him trending up, I don't like it. Obviously the last few games he's been a beast, but if he's at 11K and he gets some of these lower values, that does obviously hurt him. And then if he's getting the production, who's he taking it away from, kind of thing. So yeah, no, definitely Kittle, he's a beast. 5 red zone targets the past 3 games. He's the Seattle Seahawks give up quite a bit of yards to tight ends. However, they haven't given up a touchdown to a tight end all year. So
Okay.
Now I would have to go back and see every single team that Seattle played this year to see if they played one of these top tier tight ends to fully justify that I guess that statement. But That is just an interesting fact. If that you the audience can double check too. Noah Fant, I don't know. I don't see him as a viable target. I will, maybe utilize him maybe in a few lineups just simply because he is on the field. He'll be getting the snap counts, and he's at 7,500. He'll probably be low owned, so that would be a decent value play in those larger field tournaments. But as if I can, I would probably try to avoid him. I don't think I'm doing. I think about 30 lineups, 25 of them being I'm running through my optimizer, and I don't think Noah Fant came up in. I would maybe say maybe one or two lineups. I would have to verify that statement, but.
What did Disley happen to come up in any? Which I know that sounds random, but he is a dude I've. At least last year, I mean, he's that random cheap guy that I could see getting in, maybe getting some extra snaps, and
No, not only I had his projections pretty low, probably less than 2 points. Just one, San Francisco is third among allowing receiving yards against tight ends at about 37 yards. They're averaging, and they're averaging basically zero touchdowns to tight ends. So,
okay, yeah.
Will the second string is he? Will he get a potential opportunity? Yes, but that might be too much of a dice gamble. And like I said, that might just be one of those. If I was doing 150 lineups in these larger entities, would I have him? More than likely. But since I'm only doing 25. He didn't. I don't think he came up. I would have to definitely double check that, but I'm 95%, 99% positive he didn't show up in that.
And not to bounce back to the running backs, but I mean, as I was kind of glancing down at the cheaper guys, I mean, Kyle Juszczyk at 5,500. You and I were talking a little bit before the pod. He's a beast. He could be an RB1. I mean, if CMC gets hurt, I mean, I know that we also have Mason. He's a beast, and we got Bell, who's a beast. Juszczyk he's been with us for quite some time, and as you can see, he scored against Jacksonville. He scored against Dallas. 5,500. I'd rather take a shot like that than on a Disley.
Exactly. Now moving on from the tight ends over to the defense and kickers. Obviously, it's pretty self-explanatory. 49ers defense will be, I believe, a viable play here. I don't see Seattle, especially at 8,500 against the San Francisco. Maybe if they were 7,500, I can see maybe throwing them in a lineup or two, just for the low ownership and the possibility that, hey, maybe something might happen. They are in Seattle this first game, so you never know. But yeah, definitely San Francisco, and at 9K, I think that's a little low. Especially we just covered the Dallas game and they're at 11K. So the kicker wise, I probably have the edge over Seattle as Jake Moody. I mean, he's consistent, but he does have a few misses here on his repertoire. Cleveland, he missed two extra field goals here, and Minnesota, he's missed one. But other than that, he's pretty consistent. But it just seems like 49ers are scoring touchdowns; they're not really settling for field goals. So if I leaned a kicker, it would definitely be Jason Myers over Moody. How do you see the defense and the kickers in this matchup?
Yeah, I'll definitely be exposed to the 49ers defense quite a bit. As you mentioned, the 9K price point is looking really nice, especially after seeing, as you mentioned, Dallas at 11K. I mean, at 9,000 with, we've got 20 fantasy points against Jacksonville. We had 16 fantasy points against Dallas, 13 against Pittsburgh. So I see the defense doing better than our kicker. I don't see us going from any field goals. I think we're going to be scoring touchdowns. Last year we only attempted one field goal out of the two games. Two field goals. So if I was going to go with a kicker, I think if Seattle is able to get on the board, it's probably going to be a field goal. In the first matchup, the 7 points when we beat them 27-7, they actually their defense, special teams, blocked a punt and scored those 7 points. So Geno Smith actually went 24 for 30 for 187 yards, no touchdowns and an interception, and was sacked twice. And then, in the other game, he went 31 for 44 with one touchdown and no interceptions. But and as far as Seattle's defense, whoever puts him on into their lineup is just lighting their money on fire, and they just want to, you'd have to ask them what they're thinking at that point. They clearly aren't watching football if you're putting Seattle's defense, if you think this game is going to be close, especially with the injury news. So, how about we maybe take a look at some of the lineups that we have?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start over. With your lineup here.
So, should not be a shock or anything like that. I got Christian McCaffrey at the MVP. As I mentioned, I'll be making about 20 lineups. I'm going to have probably 65%, maybe 70 of him at MVP, possibly 80. I'll just have to see how lineup construction is. The 49ers players are all expensive, and only so many of them can score so many fantasy points. And then Brock Purdy, when he in his one matchup against them, and it was in their house, I'm not worried about him going on the road into Seattle. He threw for 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, and had a passer rating of like 117 or somewhere thereabouts. So Purdy at 15K is definitely viable. And then I really like George Kittle. I did not know the stat that this season that Seattle had not given up a touchdown yet to a tight end. I did kind of take a quick peek, and it did look like Mark Andrews with Baltimore. They played them, and he obviously didn't score a touchdown. So, I'm still gonna. I think Kittle, if anyone is going to break that cycle, it's going to be George Kittle. And this could be a different. Seattle's defense could be on the field and out of breath if their offense, with no Drew Lock and no Kenneth Walker, man, it's going to be a long day for Seattle. I actually feel bad for those fans on Thanksgiving Day. That's what ends up happening. I actually hope that, they play and it's a competitive game. But either way, if not, as you see, I got the 49ers defense at 9,000, and with what the upside is, I'll be, at the field with them. I'm sure they're going to be 30% owned. I could imagine, would be my guess, somewhere in that ballpark. And then I got Noah Fant. I got the tight end for Seattle. I unfortunately cannot go 5 49ers. The Fanduel does not allow me to do that. So having to put in one person from Seattle, I went ahead and went with the tight end. This lineup is assuming Kenneth Walker's most likely not going to be in, and I'm assuming Geno Smith, even if he attempts to play, I don't think he'll make it through the full game. So I could see the tight end getting some more of the easy check down passes. And that leaves 500 on the table. Most of my lineups will be 4-1 4 San Francisco and 1 person from Seattle. And it's going to be about getting, the right 49ers who are scoring. I mean, we got a lot of mouths to feed, and all of them, have an upside of 25 to 30 fantasy points between Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Purdy, Kittle. I feel bad. I don't want to leave anyone off. The list goes on and on. So I will, don't get me wrong, I will make sure to have in some of my lineups some DK Metcalf, where I'll start with the one Seattle person I want and then see what 49ers I can build around it. So just another second line of thinking. But as far as putting one lineup in that I can almost guarantee you will make money, I'm betting my money on it. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. This is what I'm rocking with. What are your thoughts on my lineup here, David?
Yeah. No, I obviously agree with the Christian McCaffrey with the MVP. Brock Purdy, yeah, definitely. George Kittle. They're all definitely, like I said, the viable thing. The only one I'm not feeling too comfortable about is the Noah Fant, and that's just from his past performances this year, and like you said, that might come down to what quarterback is playing. Because I can clearly see with the 500 on the table that this will be a pretty chalky lineup. I think the 4-1 approach with 49ers, I think you don't even have to be a 49er fan to assume that that's probably going to be the more optimal of the lineups. Unless, the sixth man at Seattle, brings it. They're going to need all the help they can get. And if they're going to win one of the 2 games against 49ers, it would be this one. I do not see them winning in Santa Clara at San Francisco's home. But yeah, no, this lineup, I definitely see, being in the money, but I definitely also see it, highly owned.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment. I was kind of trying to peruse down to see if there was a lower Seattle person I might be able to, switch out for him, and I guess that might just come down to some final news on, on Metcalf, on Walker. I was hesitant to go a running back because I feel like Seattle's going to be forced to throw. But like you said, it might be some small check down passes with even Dallas, DJ Dallas. Mm-hmm. I mean, they even bumped him up to 8K. So I think that kind of tells us that, like you said, Kenneth Walker's probably not going to be in if DJ Dallas is bumped up to 8,000.
Yeah.
So, that would zero out my lineup. I was trying to avoid that. Man, hey, just do me a favor. Go to DJ Dallas's photo. I mean, it's if you're not able to, that's all good. It's just shockingly funny, and it actually makes me want to pimp my lineup even more. So I'll be doing that. Yeah. So anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's take a look at your lineup.
Heading over to my lineup, you can see here. So this is based on my optimizer that I actually created, and I take. I do use projections and such, but I also, adjust those projections how I see fit. I just like to get a baseline. I just don't, at the current time, have the time and or resources to kind of create my own projections. So I use an outside source projections. However, I do alter them to what I see. So it's unique. But as far as my optimizer, this is what. Obviously, I'm putting in 25 lineups. This lineup right here, I chose out of the 25 that I'm putting in to be more of the larger field. Based on, we'll go over it here. mainly one has, I always look for, how much salary do I have left, because that's what's going to set you apart, especially since I am going with the more heavily owned Christian McCaffrey at the MVP. I do have to set myself apart some way. So I think by doing, looking down here, I went with 3 Seattle players, so that's going definitely, I think, contrarian in this matchup. As mentioned in the previous segments, I think the 49ers have the weaker the coverage, so I went with 2 Seattle wide receivers in the rookie Smith and then Tyler Lockett. I'm hoping Metcalf, doesn't get him. I'm hoping that, they lock him down. They use, Lenore, I believe, is the other cornerback. Use the better of the cornerbacks to lock down Metcalf and let Lockett and Smith kind of run the field and soak up, the bulk of the target shares. I went with Kittle. Simply also the optimizer determined he is the one of the his production as of lately, and I actually increased his projection of fantasy points because I think Seattle I don't think they can contain Kittle. I think they're going to do their best to lock down Ayuk and Samuel, which obviously that's going to free up the middle of the field for Kittle there. So that's another reason I did choose this as one of my lineups to share with you guys. Jason Meyer, obviously, as I stated earlier, he's the kicker. I see 49ers scoring touchdowns and Seattle probably scoring field goals. So I do agree. Agree with this. Would this potentially be one that I necessarily hand built? Probably wouldn't be in the top 25 of the ones I hand built, but that's why I like to use the optimizer approach too, so I can see lineups that I wouldn't necessarily think of. And I think this one would be a good one to enter into a larger field tournament.
Yeah. The only concern for me is the 3 people, the 3 Seattle people and 2 from the 49ers. I did take a look to see what one other adjustment could be made. I'm actually going to go ahead and do that and permutate the 49ers defense in there, because then there'll still be the 1,500 remaining. And, it really is a toss-up if the Niners defense or if Myers hits, 240 or 50-yard field goals, that puts him, can put him in the ballpark of the 49ers defensive scoring. So, that's definitely contrarian. As you mentioned, the 4-1 build 49er and Christian McCaffrey at MVP is probably going to be how most constructions are. So, that's a solid lineup, and I'll be interested to see how the optimizer does, versus a couple of hand cured lineups. Is that something you and me have kind of been testing out lately?
So with that, let us know what whose lineup would you enter? Would you go with the handcrafted one, or would you go with the the optimizer approach? Keep in mind, this is my own personal optimizer. I think I have it a decent settings and everything like that to where it gives me viable lineups there. So, or would you enter both in? Let us know down in the comments, and we'll be or let us know the lineups you plan on entering in, and we can, if you want any additional feedback, we always follow up with any and all comments that will be left, or at least try to do our best. And with that, I believe David has an announcement about one of the tournaments that we have going on for this matchup. Send it over to you.
Yeah, we do have a matchup for each single game here for Thanksgiving on Thursday. Just look down in the description. There will be a link to it's free to enter. It's just 100-person cash game type tournament. I say cash game because it's not a large field tournament. So these lineups that David and I built are not the lineups we're going to be entering into something with just 100 people. But if you want to test your skills against the lineups that we have, if you just show us proof that you liked and subscribed, liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and if your lineup is able to beat my lineup and David's lineup, and you take first place, we'll be Venmoing you $100. So just another free way to make an extra $100. That way you can do some holiday shopping and have fun, and we're all here to try to make some money and help each other make watching football a little more fun and a little more profitable.
Yeah, nice. So if I beat you and I come in first, do you Venmo me $100?
Hey, I will do that.
No, nice. No. Just kidding. But no, let's head over here to, what we typically do at the end of the streams. We tell you our predictions for the MVP, for the matchup, the value player that we see, and also our overall game score predictions. So, David, if you want to go ahead and start that out.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see it'll be Christian McCaffrey for me. It's almost a free square, which is crazy to say at 17,000. Assuming he's not injured, doesn't get injured, and he has a safe and usual game. He's the best running back in football right now. So that's going to be my MVP lock. Lock it up. If you play him at MVP. There's really almost no reason to put him at the flex position. Now, if you think Brock Purdy's going to throw for 4 touchdowns, maybe put Purdy there and McCaffrey down. That actually might cut his ownership quite a bit. And then my low own play, I'm just going to have to go with Noah Fant. It's going to be between Noah Fant if I'm picking someone from Seattle. I feel like the tight end is going to get some extra targets. If not, if the game does get out of control, we don't want our players getting hurt in the fourth quarter. So, assuming McCaffrey already got his, I could see Kyle Juszczyk getting in there, and again, he'll be 5,500. And this is again if you're making multiple lineups. So at 5,500, Juszczyk would be your best. I don't know. I'm such a diehard 49er fan. I don't know what his ownership projection would be, so I'm a little blinded. I'll just be honest. I don't want to be biased. So, what do you think, David? Who do you got at MVP and your low owned value play?
I think I missed it. Did you say this final score?
Oh no, I did not. I got the final score being, I got 49ers 38 and Seattle 13. 38 13.
Dang. Okay.
And that's really gifting Seattle, to be honest. I mean, I really, you know what? Let's go 38-9. 38-9.
38-9. Wow. Okay.
That's my final.
All right. So yeah, going over to my MVP pick, it's going to be clearly McCaffrey. It's hard to, unless something unforeseen happens, and obviously, hopefully, it doesn't happen. I clearly see him probably running / catching all over this team. At least, maybe for sure 1 touchdown. Definitely 1, possibly or highly probable 2 touchdowns in this matchup. It'd be nice. Let's just give him 3. But value play, this one's out of the games that we're covering, I don't know who I would pick for this. in all honesty, no, I have no idea. Maybe. No, I'm just gonna probably cheap out and say the Seattle kicker at 9K. If I see him maybe getting 3 field goals and 2 scores or something like that. So at 9K, if he can get me 12 points or so, he'll probably be that the points to the salary ratio.
And not to interrupt, and before you get to your score, as I was cruising down, Drew Lock is only 5,000, so I don't know if that's FanDuel thinking Geno Smith is going to give it a go, but if Lock ends up playing and he is 5,000, I mean that keep your eye out on that. But my bad for interrupting. What do you got? What's your prediction on the outcome of this game?
No, that's a good catch there. That's a huge gamble. Definitely, I'd be following the news on that and be ready. It'd be hard to do a quick player swap with the 5K player if you're waiting literally to the last minute there. But final score. I'm gonna say. If I said 3, 2, 14, 23, 28, San Francisco.
Wow, you got Seattle scoring 23 points on my defense.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Even with injury news. So wait. Let's say Kenneth Walker is out, and then Geno Smith is. I mean. Even if he plays, we know he's going to be playing hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Even with that,
I'm going in unbiased. I have no dog in this fight. So this is what I'm saying. I've gone in thinking that I didn't think the Bears would be beating the Lions until the end of the game either, and here we are. So it's in Seattle. They have that advantage there. Obviously, 49ers are the better team, so I see them winning. I see it just as a closer game. I don't think they're going to come out and kill them. So, yeah, obviously I could be wrong, but that's why we play, daily fantasy sports. That's why it's here. If I knew the answer, then,
Yeah, we wouldn't need a podcast. We'd be retiring with all the money.
Yeah, exactly. So, and with that, let's go ahead and, let us know. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, and leave any kind of comments down below. And I'll probably be putting any kind of injury news updates in the comments too as a pinned comment at the top. So, make sure you're following us. We cover all Thursday night and Sunday night football matchups, and here soon we're going to be heading over, also doing maybe. One video for NBA. We haven't quite decided which slate or which topic to kind of do in that, but we're definitely going to be NBA. So make sure you get in, and you won't miss an episode.
Yep. Everyone have a great holiday. Hope everybody out there makes a lot of money, and come see us for the Sunday night matchup. And
Yep.
we're out.
Take care. Yep.